Honduras, officially the Republic of Honduras, is a country in Central America. The Republic of Honduras is bordered to the west by Guatemala, to the southwest by El Salvador, to the southeast by Nicaragua, to the south by the Pacific Ocean at the Gulf of Fonseca, and to the north by the Gulf of Honduras, a large inlet of the Caribbean Sea. Honduras was home to several important Mesoamerican cultures, most notably the Maya, before the Spanish colonization in the 16th century. The Spanish introduced Roman Catholicism and the now predominant Spanish language, along with numerous customs that have blended with the indigenous culture. Honduras became independent in 1821 and has since been a republic, although it has consistently endured much social strife and political instability, and remains one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere. In 1960, the northern part of what was the Mosquito Coast was transferred from Nicaragua to Honduras by the International Court of Justice. The nation's economy is primarily agricultural, making it especially vulnerable to natural disasters such as Hurricane Mitch in 1998. Honduras spans about and has a population exceeding million. Its northern portions are part of the Western Caribbean zone. As reflected in the area's demographics and culture, Honduras is known for its rich natural resources, including minerals, coffee, tropical fruit, and sugar cane, as well as for its growing textiles industry, which serves the international market.
Etymology.
The literal meaning of the term Honduras is depths in Spanish. The name could either refer to the Bay of Trujillo as an anchorage, Fondura in the Leonese dialect of Spanish, or to Columbus's alleged quote that Gracias a Dios que hemos salido de esas Honduras, thank God we have departed from those depths. It was not until the end of the 16th century that Honduras was used for the whole province. Prior to 1580, Honduras referred to only the eastern part of the province, and Higueras referred to the western part. Hondurans are often referred to as Catracho or Catracafam in Spanish. The word was coined by Nicaraguans and derives from the last name of the Spanish Honduran general Florencio Xatruch, who in 1857 led Honduran armed forces against an attempted invasion by North American adventurer William Walker. The nickname is considered complimentary, not derogatory.
History. Pre-colonial period.
In pre-Columbian times, almost all of modern Honduras was part of the Mesoamerican cultural area, with the exception of La Mosquitia in the extreme east, which seems to have been more connected to the Isthmo-Colombian area, although also in contact with and influenced by Mesoamerican societies. In the extreme west, Mayan civilization flourished for hundreds of years. The dominant and most well-known and well-studied state within Honduras borders was in Copan, which was located in a mainly non-Mayan area, or on the frontier between Maya and non-Maya areas. Copan declined with other lowland centers during the conflagrations of the Terminal Classic in the 9th century. The Maya of this civilization survive in western Honduras as the Corti, isolated from their Colchian linguistic peers to the west. However, Copan represents only a fraction of Honduran pre-Columbian history. Remnants of other civilizations are found throughout the country. Archaeologists have studied sites such as in La Sierra in the Naco Valley, Los Naranjas on Lake Yojoa, Yaromala in the Comayagua Valley, La Ceiba and Salitron Viejo both now under the Cajun Dam Reservoir, Selin Farm and Cuayamal in the Aguan Valley, Cerro Palenque, Travesier, Carust, Ticamaya, Dispiloncal, and Playa de los Muertos in the Lower Ulua River Valley, and many others. In 2012, LIDAR scanning revealed that several previously unknown high-density settlements existed in La Mosquitia, corresponding to the legend of La Ciudad Blanca. Excavation and study has since improved knowledge of the region's history. It is estimated that these settlements reached their zenith from 500 to 1000 AD.
Spanish conquest 1524 to 1539.
On his fourth and the final voyage to the New World in 1502, Christopher Columbus landed near the modern town of Trujillo. near Guamuto Lagoon, becoming the first European to visit the Bay Islands on the coast of Honduras. On the 30th of July 1502, Columbus sent his brother Bartholomew to explore the islands, and Bartholomew encountered a Mayan trading vessel from Yucatan, carrying well-dressed Maya and a rich cargo. Bartholomew's men stole the cargo they wanted and kidnapped the ship's elderly captain to serve as an interpreter. In March 1524, Gil González Dávila became the first Spaniard to enter Honduras as a conquistador, followed by Hernán Cortés, who had brought forces down from Mexico. Much of the conquest took place in the following 2 decades, first by groups loyal to Cristobal de Walid, and then by those loyal to Francisco de Montejo, but most particularly by those following Alvarado. In addition to Spanish resources, the conquerors relied heavily on armed forces from Mexico, Tlaxcalans and Mexico armies of thousands who remained garrisoned in the region. Resistance to conquest was led in particular by Lempiera. Many regions in the north of Honduras never fell to the Spanish, notably the Mosquito Kingdom. After the Spanish conquest, Honduras became part of Spain's vast empire in the New World within the Kingdom of Guatemala. Trujillo and Gracias were the first city capitals. The Spanish ruled the region for approximately 3 centuries.
Spanish Honduras 1524 to 1821.
Honduras was organized as a province of the Kingdom of Guatemala, and the capital was fixed, first at Trujillo on the Atlantic coast, and later at Comayagua, and finally at Tegucigalpa in the central part of the country. Silver mining was a key factor in the Spanish conquest and settlement of Honduras. Initially the mines were worked by local people through the encomienda system, but as disease and resistance made this option less available, slaves from other parts of Central America were brought in. When local slave trading stopped at the end of the 16th century, African slaves, mostly from Angola, were imported. After about 1650, very few slaves or other outside workers arrived in Honduras. Although the Spanish conquered the southern or Pacific portion of Honduras fairly quickly, they were less successful on the northern, or Atlantic side. They managed to found a few towns along the coast, at Puerto Caballos and Trujillo in particular, but failed to conquer the eastern portion of the region and many pockets of independent indigenous people as well. The Mosquito Kingdom in the northeast was particularly effective at resisting conquest. The Mosquito Kingdom found support from northern European privateers, pirates, and especially the British formerly English colony of Jamaica, which placed much of the area under its protection after 1740.
Independence 1821.
Honduras gained independence from Spain in 1821 and was a part of the First Mexican Empire until 1823, when it became part of the United Provinces of Central America. It has been an independent republic and has held regular elections since 1838. In the 1840s and 1850s, Honduras participated in several failed attempts at Central American unity, such as the Confederation of Central America 1842 to 1845, the Covenant of Guatemala 1842, the Diet of Sonsonate 1846, the Diet of Nacome 1847, and National Representation in Central America 1849 to 1852. Although Honduras eventually adopted the name Republic of Honduras, the unionist ideal never waned, and Honduras was one of the Central American countries that pushed the hardest for a policy of regional unity. Policies favoring international trade and investment began in the 1870s, and soon foreign interests became involved, first in shipping from the north coast, especially tropical fruit and most notably bananas, and then in building railroads. In 1888, a projected railroad line from the Caribbean coast to the capital, Tegucigalpa, ran out of money when it reached San Pedro Sula. As a result, San Pedro grew into the nation's primary industrial center and second largest city. Comayagua was the capital of Honduras until 1880, when the capital moved to Tegucigalpa. Since independence, nearly 300 small internal rebellions and civil wars have occurred in the country, including some changes of regime.
20th century and the role of American companies.
In the late 19th century, Honduras granted land and substantial exemptions to several US-based fruit and infrastructure companies in return for developing the country's northern regions. Thousands of workers came to the north coast as a result to work in banana plantations and other businesses that grew up around the export industry. Banana exporting companies, dominated until 1930 by the Cuauhtémoc Fruit Company, as well as the United Fruit Company and Standard Fruit Company, built an enclave economy in northern Honduras, controlling infrastructure and creating self-sufficient, tax-exempt sectors that contributed relatively little to economic growth. American troops landed in Honduras in 1903, 1907, 1911, 1912, 1919, 1924 and 1925. In 1904, the writer O. Henry coined the term Banana Republic to describe Honduras, publishing a book called Cabbages and Kings, about a fictional country, Anchuria, inspired by his experiences in Honduras, where he had lived for 6 months. In the Admiral, O. Henry refers to the nation as a small maritime banana republic. Naturally, the fruit was the entire basis of its economy. According to a literary analyst writing for The Economist, his phrase neatly conjures up the image of a tropical, agrarian country, but its real meaning is sharper. It refers to the fruit companies from the United States that came to exert extraordinary influence over the politics of Honduras and its neighbors. In addition to drawing Central American workers north, the fruit companies encouraged immigration of workers from the English-speaking Caribbean, notably Jamaica and Belize, which introduced an African-descended, English-speaking and largely Protestant population into the country, although many of these workers left following changes to immigration law in 1939. Honduras joined the Allied Nations after Pearl Harbor, on the 8th of December 1941, and signed the Declaration by United Nations on the 1st of January 1942, along with 25 other governments. Constitutional crises in the 1940s led to reforms in the 1950s. One reform gave workers permission to organize, and a 1954 general strike paralyzed the northern part of the country for more than 2 months, but led to reforms. In 1963 a military coup unseated democratically elected President Trimonville de Morales. In 1960, the northern part of what was the Mosquito Coast was transferred from Nicaragua to Honduras by the International Court of Justice. Border tensions led to acrimony between the two countries after Oswaldo López Arellano, the president of Honduras, blamed the deteriorating Honduran economy on immigrants from El Salvador. The relationship reached a low when El Salvador met Honduras for a 3-round football elimination match preliminary to the World Cup. Tensions escalated and on the 14th of July 1969, the Salvadoran army invaded Honduras. Hurricane Fifi caused severe damage when it skimmed the northern coast of Honduras on 18 and the 19th of September 1974. Melgar Castro 1975-78 and Paz Garcia 1978-82 largely built the current physical infrastructure and telecommunications system of Honduras. In 1979, the country returned to civilian rule. A constituent assembly was popularly elected in April 1980 to write a new constitution, and general elections were held in November 1981. The constitution was approved in 1982 and the PLH government of Roberto Suazo won the election with a promise to carry out an ambitious program of economic and social development to tackle the recession in which Honduras found itself. He launched ambitious social and economic development projects sponsored by American development aid. Honduras became host to the largest Peace Corps mission in the world, and non-governmental and international voluntary agencies proliferated. The Peace Corps withdrew its volunteers in 2012, citing safety concerns. During the early 1980s, the United States established a continuing military presence in Honduras to support El Salvador, the Contra guerrillas fighting the Nicaraguan government, and also develop an airstrip and modern port in Honduras, though spared the bloody civil wars racking its neighbors. The Honduran army quietly waged campaigns against Marxist-Leninist militias such as the Cinchoneros Popular Liberation Movement, notorious for kidnappings and bombings, and against many non-militants as well. The operation included a CIA-backed campaign of extrajudicial killings by government-backed units, most notably Battalion 316. In 1998, Hurricane Mitch caused massive and widespread destruction. Honduran President Carlos Roberto Flores said that 50 years of progress in the country had been reversed. Mitch destroyed about 70% of the country's crops and an estimated 70 to 80% of the transportation infrastructure, including nearly all bridges and secondary roads. Across Honduras, 33,000 houses were destroyed, and an additional 50,000 damaged. Some 5,000 people killed, and 12,000 more injured. Total losses were estimated at $3 billion.
21st century.
In 2007, President of Honduras Manuel Zelaya and President of the United States George W. Bush began talks on U.S. assistance to Honduras to tackle the latter's growing drug cartels in Mosquito, eastern Honduras, using U.S. Special Forces. This marked the beginning of a new foothold for the U.S. military's continued presence in Central America. Under Zelaya, Honduras joined ALBA in 2008, but withdrew in 2010 after the 2009 Honduran coup d'état. In 2009, a constitutional crisis resulted when power transferred in a coup from the president to the head of Congress. The U.S. suspended Honduras because it did not regard its government as legitimate. Countries around the world, the U.S., and the United Nations formally and unanimously condemned the action as a coup d'état, refusing to recognize the de facto government, even though the lawyers consulted by the Library of Congress submitted to the United States Congress an opinion that declared the coup legal. The Honduran Supreme Court also ruled that the proceedings had been legal. The government that followed the de facto government established a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Commission de la Verdad y Reconciliación, which after more than a year of research and debate concluded that the ousting had been a coup d'état, and illegal in the Commission's opinion.
Geography.
The north coast of Honduras borders the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean lies south through the Gulf of Fonseca. Honduras consists mainly of mountains, with narrow plains along the coasts. A large undeveloped lowland jungle, La Mosquitia, lies in the northeast, and the heavily populated lowland Sula Valley in the northwest. In La Mosquitia lies the UNESCO World Heritage Site Rio Platano Biosphere Reserve, with the Coco River which divides Honduras from Nicaragua. The Islas de la Bahia and the Swan Islands are off the north coast. Misteriosa Bank and Rosario Bank, north of the Swan Islands, fall within the exclusive economic zones of Honduras. Natural resources include timber, gold, silver, copper, lead, zinc, iron ore, antimony, coal, fish, shrimp, and hydropower.
Climate.
The climate varies from tropical in the lowlands to temperate in the mountains. The central and southern regions are relatively hotter and less humid than the northern coast.
Ecology.
The region is considered a biodiversity hotspot because of the many plant and animal species found there. Like other countries in the region, it contains vast biological resources. Honduras hosts more than 6,000 species of vascular plants, of which 630 described so far are orchids, around 250 reptiles and amphibians, more than 700 bird species, and 110 mammalian species, of which half are bats. In the northeastern region of La Mosquitia lies the Rio Platano Biosphere Reserve, a lowland rainforest which is home to a great diversity of life. The reserve was added to the UNESCO World Heritage Sites list in 1982. Honduras has rainforests, cloud forests which can rise up to nearly above sea level, mangroves, savannas and mountain ranges with pine and oak trees, and the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef System. In the Bay Islands there are bottlenose dolphins, manta rays, parrotfish, schools of blue tang and whale shark.
Environmental issues.
Deforestation resulting from logging is rampant in Olancho Department. The clearing of land for agriculture is prevalent in the largely undeveloped La Mosquitia region, causing land degradation and soil erosion. Lake Yojoa, which is Honduras' largest source of fresh water, is polluted by heavy metals produced from mining activities. Some rivers and streams are also polluted by mining.
Government and politics.
Honduras is governed within a framework of a presidential representative democratic republic. The President of Honduras is both head of state and head of government. Executive power is exercised by the Honduran government. Legislative power is vested in the National Congress of Honduras. The judiciary is independent of both the executive branch and the legislature. The National Congress of Honduras Congreso Nacional has 128 members diputados, elected for a 4-year term by proportional representation. Congressional seats are assigned the party's candidates on a departmental basis in proportion to the number of votes each party receives.
Political culture.
In 1963, a military coup removed the democratically elected president, Ramon Vilda Morales. A string of authoritarian military governments held power uninterrupted until 1981, when Roberto Suazo Cordova was elected president. The party system was dominated by the conservative National Party of Honduras, Partido Nacional de Honduras, PNH, and the Liberal Party of Honduras, Partido Liberal de Honduras, PLH, until the 2009 Honduran coup d'état removed Manuel Zelaya from office and put Roberto Micheletti in his place. In late 2012, 1,540 persons were interviewed by ERIC in collaboration with the Jesuit University, as reported by Associated Press. This survey found that 63% believed the police were involved in crime, 9% had no confidence in the Supreme Court, and 72% thought there was electoral fraud in the primary elections of November 2012. Also, 56% expected the presidential, legislative and municipal elections of 2013 to be fraudulent. Current Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernández took office on the 27th of January 2014. After managing to stand for a second term, a very close election in 2017 left uncertainty as to whether Hernández or his main challenger, television personality Salvador Nasrallah, had prevailed.
Foreign relations.
Honduras and Nicaragua had tense relations throughout 2000 and early 2001 due to a boundary dispute off the Atlantic coast. Nicaragua imposed a 35% tariff against Honduran goods due to the dispute. In June 2009, a coup d'état ousted President Manuel Zelaya. He was taken in a military aircraft to neighboring Costa Rica. The General Assembly of the United Nations voted to denounce the coup and called for the restoration of Zelaya. Several Latin American nations, including Mexico, temporarily severed diplomatic relations with Honduras. In July 2010, full diplomatic relations were once again re-established with Mexico. The United States sent out mixed messages after the coup. Obama called the ouster a coup and expressed support for Zelaya's return to power. U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, advised by John Negroponte, the former Reagan-era ambassador to Honduras implicated in the Iran-Contra affair, refrained from expressing support. She has since explained that the U.S. would have had to cut aid if it called Zelaya's ouster a military coup, although the U.S. has a record of ignoring these events when it chooses. Zelaya had expressed an interest in Hugo Chávez's Bolivarian Alliance for Peoples of Our America ALBA, and had actually joined in 2008. After the 2009 coup, Honduras withdrew its membership. This interest in regional agreements may have increased the alarm of establishment politicians. When Zelaya began calling for a fourth ballot box to determine whether Hondurans wished to convoke a special constitutional congress, this sounded a lot to some like the constitutional amendments that had extended the terms of both Hugo Chávez and Evo Morales. Chávez has served as a role model for like-minded leaders intent on cementing their power. These presidents are barely in office when they typically convene a constitutional convention to guarantee their re-election, said a 2009 Spiegel International analysis. which noted that one reason to join ALBA was discounted Venezuelan oil. In addition to Chavez and Morales, Carlos Menem of Argentina, Fernando Henrique Cardoso of Brazil and Colombian President Alvaro Uribe had all taken this step, and Washington and the EU were both accusing the Sandinista government in Nicaragua of tampering with election results. Whether or not Zelaya's removal from power had constitutional elements, the Honduran constitution explicitly protects all Hondurans from forced expulsion from Honduras. The United States maintains a small military presence at one Honduran base. The two countries conduct joint peacekeeping, counter-narcotics, humanitarian, disaster relief, humanitarian, medical and civic action exercises. U.S. troops conduct and provide logistics support for a variety of bilateral and multilateral exercises. The United States is Honduras' chief trading partner.
Administrative divisions.
Honduras is divided into 18 departments. The capital city is Tegucigalpa in the Central District within the department of Francisco Morazan. Atlantida Colutka Comayagua Copan El Parazo Francisco Morazan Gracias a Dios Intibucuilas de la Bahía La Paz Lempira Ocotepeco Lancho Santa Barbara Valloro. A new administrative division called Zonas to Empleo y Desarrollo Económico was created in 2013. ZEEDs have a high level of autonomy with their own political system at a judicial, economic and administrative level, and are based on free market capitalism.
Economy, poverty.
The World Bank categorizes Honduras as a low-middle-income nation. In 2010, 50% of the population were living below the poverty line. By 2016, more than 66% were living below the poverty line. Economic growth in the last few years has averaged 7% a year, one of the highest rates in Latin America. 2010. Honduras is ranked 130 of 188 countries with a Human Development Index of 625 that classifies the nation as having medium development. 2015. The three factors that go into Honduras: HDI, an extended and healthy life, accessibility of knowledge and standard of living have all improved since 1990 but still remain relatively low, with life expectancy at birth being 73. 3. Expected years of schooling being 11. 2 mean of 6. 2 years and GNI per capita being $4.466, 2015. Additionally, they are a large contributor to food insecurity in the country as farmers are left unable to provide for their families. The rural and urban poor hit hardest by Hurricane Mitch. The Mid-Patuca region was almost completely destroyed. A large majority of Honduran farmers live in extreme poverty, or below $180 per capita. Currently 1/4 of children are affected by chronic malnutrition. While spending on poverty reduction aid increased, there was only a 2.5% increase in GDP between 1999 and 2002. This improvement left Honduras still below that of countries that lacked aid through poverty reduction strategy behind those without it. Poverty reduction strategies were also intended to affect social policy through increased investment in education and health sectors. This was expected to lift poor communities out of poverty while also increasing the workforce as a means of stimulating the Honduran economy. Poverty is concentrated in southern, eastern, and western regions where rural and indigenous peoples live. North and central Honduras are home to the country's industries and infrastructure, resulting in low levels of poverty. The effects of poverty on rural communities are vast. Poor communities typically live in adobe homes, lack material resources, have limited access to medical resources, and live off of basics such as rice, maize and beans. The lower class predominantly consists of rural subsistence farmers and landless peasants. Since 1965 there has been an increase in the number of landless peasants in Honduras, which has led to a growing class of urban poor individuals. The majority of high-ranking officials in the Honduran army are recruited from elite military academies. In 2005 Honduras signed CAFTA, a free trade agreement with the United States. In December 2005, Puerto Cortes, The primary seaport of Honduras was included in the U.S. Container Security Initiative. In 2006, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Energy announced the first phase of the Secure Freight Initiative (SFI), which built upon existing port security measures. SFI gave the U.S. government enhanced authority, allowing it to scan containers from overseas for nuclear and radiological materials, in order to improve the risk assessment of individual U.S.-bound containers. The initial phase of secure freight involved deploying of nuclear detection and other devices to 6 foreign ports: Port Qasim in Pakistan, Puerto Cortes in Honduras, Southampton in the United Kingdom, Port of Salalah in Oman, Port of Singapore, Gammon Terminal at Port Busan, Korea. Containers in these ports have been scanned since 2007 for radiation and other risk factors before they are allowed to depart for the United States. For Economic Development, a 2012 Memorandum of Understanding with a group of international investors obtained Honduran government approval to build a zoned city with its own laws, tax system, judiciary and police, but opponents brought a suit against it in the Supreme Court, calling it a state within a state. In 2013, Honduras Congress ratified Decree 120, which led to the establishment of ZEDs. The government began construction of the first zones in June 2015.
Energy.
About half of the electricity sector in Honduras is privately owned. The remaining generation capacity is run by any Empresa Nacional de Energía Eléctrica. Key challenges in the sector are financing investments in generation and transmission without either a financially healthy utility or concessionary funds from external donors, rebalancing tariffs, cutting arrears and reducing losses, including electricity theft, without social unrest, reconciling environmental concerns with government objectives, 2 large new dams and associated hydropower plants, improving access to electricity in rural areas.
Transportation.
Infrastructure for transportation in Honduras consists of railways, of roadways, in partnership with Agua Clara at Cornell University. In addition, many government organizations work on projects in Honduras, including the European Union, the USAID, the Army Corps of Engineers, Cooperation Andalusia, the Government of Japan, and others.
Crime.
In recent years, Honduras has experienced very high levels of violence and criminality. Homicide violence reached a peak in 2012 with an average of 20 homicides a day. Cities such as San Pedro Sula and the Tegucigalpa have registered homicide rates among the highest in the world. The violence is associated with drug trafficking, as Honduras is often a transit point, and with a number of urban gangs, mainly the MS-13 and the 18th Street Gang. But as recently as 2017, organizations such as Incite Crimes show figures of 42 per 100,000 inhabitants, a 26% drop from 2016 figures. Violence in Honduras increased after Plan Colombia was implemented and after Mexican President Felipe Calderón declared the war against drug trafficking in Mexico. Along with neighboring El Salvador and Guatemala, Honduras forms part of the Northern Triangle of Central America, which has been characterized as one of the most violent regions in the world. As a result of crime and increasing murder rates, the flow of migrants from Honduras to the U.S. also went up. The rise in violence in the region has received international attention.
Demographics.
Honduras had a population of in. The proportion of the population below the age of 15 in 2010 was 36.8%, 58.9% were between 15 and 65 years old, and 4.3% were 65 years old or older. Since 1975, emigration from Honduras has accelerated as economic migrants and political refugees sought a better life elsewhere. A majority of expatriate Hondurans live in the United States. A 2012 U.S. State Department estimate suggested that between 800,000 and 1 million Hondurans lived in the United States at that time, nearly 15% of the Honduran population.
Race and ethnicity.
The ethnic breakdown of Honduran society was 90% mestizo, 7% American Indian, 2% Black and 1% White. 2017. This system was used in the 1935 and 1940 census. He claims that in much as Spanish America little attention is paid to race and race mixture, resulting in social status having little reliance on one's physical features. The majority of Amerindians in Honduras are Lenca, followed by the Miskito, Choti, Talupan, Pec, and Sumo. The Gender Inequality Index (GI) depicts gender-based inequalities in Honduras according to reproductive health, empowerment, and economic activity. Familialism refers to the idea of individual interests being second to that of the family, most often in relation to dating and marriage, abstinence, and parental approval and supervision of dating. Honduran men claim responsibility for family decisions including reproductive health decisions. The prevalence of child sexual abuse was 7.8% in Honduras, with the majority of reports being from children under the age of 11. Women that experienced sexual abuse as children were found to be twice as likely to be in violent relationships. Unlike other Central American countries such as El Salvador, Guatemala, and Nicaragua, Honduras does not have detailed guidelines requiring service providers to be extensively trained and respect the rights of sexual violence victims. Honduras' SAT program is one of the largest in the world, second only to Colombia's with 6,000 students. The main indigenous languages are Garifuna Arawakan, almost 100,000 speakers in Honduras including monolinguals Miskito Misumalpan, 29,000 speakers in Honduras, Mayangna Misumalpan, less than 1,000 speakers in Honduras, more in Nicaragua, Bec, Paya, Chibchan, less than 1,000 speakers, Toljicaquian, less than 500 speakers, Scorti Mayan, less than 50 speakers. The Lenca isolate lost all its fluent native speakers in the 20th century but is currently undergoing revival efforts among the members of the ethnic population of about 100,000. The largest immigrant languages are Arabic 42,000, Armenian 1,300, Turkish 900, Chinese 1,000. The CIA fact book lists Honduras as 97% Catholic and 3% Protestant. Often people attend one church without giving up their home church. Many who attend evangelical megachurches in the US, for example, attend more than one church. This shifting and fluidity is common in Brazil, where 2/5 of those who were raised evangelical are no longer evangelical, and Catholics seem to shift in and out of various churches, often while still remaining Catholic. Most pollsters suggest an annual poll taken over a number of years would provide the best method of knowing religious demographics and variations in any single country. Still, in Honduras are thriving Anglican, Presbyterian, Methodist, Seventh-day Adventist, Lutheran, Latter-day Saint, Mormon and Pentecostal churches. There are Protestant seminaries. The Catholic Church, still the only church that is recognized, is also thriving in the number of schools, hospitals, and pastoral institutions, including its own medical school that it operates. Its Archbishop, Oscar Andres Rodriguez Maradiaga, is also very popular, both with the government, other churches, and in his own church. Practitioners of the Buddhist, Jewish, Islamic, Baha'i, Rastafari and indigenous denominations and religions exist.
Health.
See Health in Honduras.
Education.
About 83.6% of the population are literate, and the net primary enrollment rate was 94% in 2004. In 2014, the primary school completion rate was 97%. Honduras has bilingual Spanish and English, and even trilingual Spanish with English, Arabic, or German schools and numerous universities. The higher education is governed by the National Autonomous University of Honduras, which has centers in the most important cities of Honduras.
Crime.
Crime in Honduras is rampant and criminals operate with a high degree of impunity. Honduras has one of the highest murder rates in the world. Official statistics from the Honduran Observatory on National Violence show Honduras' homicide rate was 60 per 100,000 in 2015, with the majority of homicide cases unprosecuted. highway assaults and carjackings at roadblocks or checkpoints set up by criminals with police uniforms and equipment occur frequently. Although reports of kidnappings of foreigners are not common, families of kidnapping victims often pay ransoms without reporting the crime to police out of fear of retribution, so kidnapping figures may be underreported. Roberto Souza, Eduardo Barr, Amanda Castro, J.V. Rabril Espinoza, Teofilo Trejo, and Roberto Quezada. The Jose Francisco Sabe Theatre in San Pedro Sula is home to the Circulo Teatral Sampedrano Theatrical Circle of San Pedro Sula. Honduras has experienced a boom from its film industry for the past 2 decades. Since the premiere of the movie Anita Larca's Adorado Insectos in 2001, the level of Honduran productions has increased, many collaborating with countries such as Mexico, Colombia, and the US. The most well-known Honduran films are El Xandra, Amor y Frijoles, and Café con Aroma a Mi Tierra.
Cuisine.
Honduran cuisine is a fusion of indigenous Lenca cuisine, Spanish cuisine, Caribbean cuisine and African cuisine. There are also dishes from the Garifuna people. Coconut and coconut milk are featured in both sweet and savory dishes. Regional specialties include fried fish, tamales, carne asada and baylitas. Other popular dishes include meat roasted with chismal and carne asada, chicken with rice and corn, and fried fish with pickled onions and jalapenos. Some of the ways seafood and some meats are prepared in coastal areas and in the Bay Islands involve coconut milk. The soups Hondurans enjoy include bean soup, mondongo soup, tripe soup, seafood soups and beef soups. Generally these soups are served mixed with plantains, yuca, and cabbage, and served with corn tortillas. Other typical dishes are the monchucas or corn tamales, stuffed tortillas, and tamales wrapped in plantain leaves. Honduran typical dishes also include an abundant selection of tropical fruits such as papaya, pineapple, plum, sapote, passion fruit and bananas, which are prepared in many ways while they are still green.
Media.
At least half of Honduran households have at least one television. Public television has a far smaller role than in most other countries. Honduras' main newspapers are La Prensa, El Heraldo, La Tribuna, and Diario Tiempo. The official newspaper is
Music.
Pontu is the main music of Honduras, with other sounds such as Caribbean salsa, merengue, reggae, and reggaeton all widely heard, especially in the north, and Mexican rancheras heard in the rural interior of the country. The most well-known musicians are Guillermo Anderson and Pollock.
Celebrations.
Some of Honduras' national holidays include Honduras Independence Day on the 15th of September and Children's Day or Dia del Niño, which is celebrated in homes, schools and churches on the 10th of September. On this day, children receive presents and have parties similar to Christmas or birthday celebrations. Some neighborhoods have piñatas on the street. Other holidays are Easter, Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, Day of the Soldier the 3rd of October to celebrate the birth of Francisco Morazan, Christmas, El Dia del Emperor on the 20th of July, and New Year's Eve. Honduras Independence Day festivities start early in the morning with marching bands. Each band wears different colors and features cheerleaders. Fiesta Catraca takes place this same day. Typical Honduran foods such as beans, tamales, baylitas, cassava with chicharron, and tortillas are offered. On Christmas Eve people reunite with their families and close friends to have dinner, then give out presents at midnight. In some cities fireworks are seen and heard at midnight. On New Year's Eve there is food and cohetes, fireworks and festivities. Birthdays are also great events, and include piñatas filled with candies and surprises for the children. La Ceiba Carnival is celebrated in La Ceiba, a city located in the north coast, in the second half of May to celebrate the day of the city's patron saint Saint Isidore. People from all over the world come for 1 week of festivities. Every night there is a little carnivalito in a neighborhood. On Saturday there is a big parade with floats and displays with people from many countries. This celebration is also accompanied by the Milk Fair, where many Hondurans come to show off their farm products and animals.
National symbols.
The flag of Honduras is composed of 3 equal horizontal stripes. The blue upper and lower stripes represent the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. The central stripe is white. It contains 5 blue stars representing the 5 states of the Central American Union. The middle star represents Honduras, located in the center of the Central American Union. The coat of arms was established in 1945. It is an equilateral triangle. At the base is a volcano between 3 castles, over which is a rainbow and the sun shining. The triangle is placed on an area that symbolizes being bathed by both seas. Around all of this an oval containing in golden lettering, Republic of Honduras, free, sovereign and independent. The national anthem of Honduras is a result of a contest carried out in 1914 during the presidency of Manuel Bonilla. In the end, it was the poet Augusto Coelho that ended up writing the anthem, with German-born Honduran composer Carlos Hartling writing the music. The anthem was officially adopted on the 15th of November 1915, during the presidency of. The anthem is composed of a choir and 7 strewn duran. The national flower is the famous orchid, Rhyncholelia digbyana, formerly known as Brassivola digbyana, which replaced the rose in 1969. The change of the national flower was carried out during the administration of General Oswaldo López Arellano. Thinking that Brassivola digbyana is an indigenous plant of Honduras, having this flower exceptional characteristics of beauty, vigor and distinction, as the decree dictates it. The national tree of Honduras was declared in 1928 to be simply the pine that appears symbolically in our coat of arms, el pino que figura simbólicamente en nuestro escudo, even though pines comprise a genus and not a species, and even though legally there's no specification as for what kind of pine should appear in the coat of arms either, because of its commonality in the country. The Pinus carpa species has become since then the species most strongly associated as the national tree, but legally it is not so. Another species associated as the national tree is the Pinus caribea. The national mammal is the white-tailed deer Adocoileus virginianus, which was adopted as a measure to avoid excessive depredation. It is one of 2 species of deer that live in Honduras. The national bird of Honduras is the scarlet macaw arom macaw. This bird was much valued by the pre-Columbian civilizations of Honduras.
Folklore.
Legends and fairy tales are paramount in Honduran culture. Lluvia de Pussy's reign of fish is an example of this. The legends of El Cadio and La Llorona are also popular.
Sports.
The major sports in Honduras are football, basketball, rugby, volleyball and cycling, with smaller followings for athletics, softball and handball. Information about some of the sports organizations in Honduras are listed below. Football in Honduras: Honduran Football Federation, Honduras National Baseball Team, Honduras National Football Team, Honduras National Under-20 Football Team, Honduras U17 National Football Team.